you. Chair, would you like to provide any remarks?
I do have brief remarks. I wanted to actually ask Eva if she wanted to say anything as the Chief Operating Officer in her new capacity. And I think, is Marvin have jury duty this week, or is he, where is he? As our Deputy Chief Operating Officer. So I wanted to welcome the two of them to the table and to the vibrant discussions that we will surely have about all the items on the agenda and the future.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, I'll just say that I'm very excited for this new role, very excited for the partnership with Marvin Walton as Deputy Chief Operating Officer. I think together we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but we're also very focused on bringing all the good work that's already been started over the last few years as part of our transformation process. And we're looking forward to continuing that, to seeing the implementation of that work through, and to continuing to coming up with new ideas for continuous improvement, and really focusing on the properties, and starting with the improvements at the property management office with the property staff, and building up from there, because that's where we impact our residents the most. And so Marvin and I have been out at properties almost every day since we've started. Well, I know we just started Monday officially, but the last few weeks during transition, we've been out a lot, meeting with both staff and residents, and we look forward to continuing to doing that and working closely with the board. Very excited for the partnership with this board to make these changes happen. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We had some site visits yesterday, and had an opportunity to go out as well, and saw 5 of the most beautiful backup electric generators, just fabulous as part of the Sandy work. So if you ever get a chance to visit some of those rooms, I think you should, because that's sort of the kinds of technology that we're going to have in the future. Eva accompanied us, and Lauren, her chief of staff, and Joey, mine, so it was a good trip. I think one thing I'll just say as an observation, because I do want to share this for a minute. We had to navigate at that site visit. We had an interested elected official. We had some other stakeholders there. We had the tenant associations, and we had the property manager and the supers. And I just want to just remind us all that our job is their job. And when they succeed, we succeed. And we got through about 4 or 5 different issues, which in the old NYCHA, we'd have never expected the property managers or the staff in the field to ask a question about. It's kind of like, keep your head down, and it'll be okay. But in the new NYCHA, I just want to reemphasize that all of us, the board members, myself, and all of us who work for NYCHA, are connected in a direct line to what is going on at that site. And if it isn't working there, it's not working. So we were able to patch together a couple of things. But this message that the sites have agency and have some authority and power needs to be part of our regular conversation as an organization. Because they don't see themselves that way, and there's plenty of examples when we act institutionally in ways that do not deepen the opportunities at the property. One of them is communication. If I'm working on the property, it doesn't matter if where I come from. We need to think about how we're talking to the property staff when we're there. So I think one of the things that Eva and Marvin bring to this is knowing that we have to deal with that issue institutionally. There's no question we should not be able to ask amongst ourselves. There's no question of support for the property and what is the result on the ground. And sometimes that requires multiple efforts to connect. So I do want to say I think this change is the next step in reframing our institution. putting NYCHA's thinking at the level where we're delivering the product. I was at one of the buildings, there were gas outages. You could see the new gas risers being installed. It's complicated, really complicated. You know, we had to explain all the different steps to the city council member, but of course, there's no substitute for seeing the work firsthand and just seeing how difficult at some sites it is just because of the floor structure and the way the gas lines run. So in that project, for example, property management, the superintendent, everybody has to be aware of what the numbers are, what the expected schedules are, and so forth. So we've now built this foundation with the neighborhood model and beginning to rearrange the pieces of delivery of service, shelter, responsiveness, on and on. Now the next step is we have to institutionalize our attitude in a good way. We have to train our staff better. We have to put millions of dollars into training, millions, and that's going to come. So we're ready actually to take the next step, but fundamentally, we also have to remember that that next step means focusing on the property and what is happening there. So it's important to recognize that. It was a good site visit. I thought we had a lot of good conversation, and I look forward to good work from both Eva and Marvin, and as we renew our operating departments and renew our opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
We're currently undertaking a massive change for the better. And working with everyone now and moving on into the future, one of the things that I'm very interested in is something that the former COO had mentioned, and that is we need to change the culture at the local level and how they think and interact with our residents. And that's one of the things that I feel needs to be addressed. I'm sure that the chair and most people have a lot of other things to do, but I don't mind taking that on because I've already been out on site visits with Ms. Gray and the former COO and, sorry, I was going to say Chief Secreto, James Secreto. And we've seen where some of the culture has to, shall we say, be helped along to fit in the new mold that NYCHA is trying to create. But I'm glad that everyone else is involved in taking care of all the big stuff. I don't mind handling the small little details at that level. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Before we move on to the calendared items, I just want to note for the record that Board members Adams and Austin are absent today. So we'll now proceed to calendared items 1 through 24. Item 1, James Secreto. Yes, until it's green,
Okay.
yes.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Chief Operating Officer Trimble. Good morning. I'm James Secreto, Vice President of the Office of Public Safety and Security. I'm here this morning to present item number 1, Board Resolution number 22-7/27-1. That's subject is authorization of a contract capacity increase to emergency indefinite delivery IDIQ contract number 2113139 awarded to Tomex Electronics, Inc. I'm here this morning to request authorization to approve a contract capacity increase to this emergency IDIQ contract in the not to exceed amount of $2,507,512 to be awarded to Tomex Electronics for maintenance and repair of layered access control and closed-circuit television, which did not require initial board authorization for an initial one-year term with a one-year renewal option to increase the not-to-exceed amount in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the one-year renewal option term, which commenced on July 23rd, 2022, and is continuing through July 22nd of 2023. This emergency IDIQ contract provides for maintenance and repair of layered access and CCTV. Scope of work includes, but is not limited to, furnishing of all labor, materials, equipment, insurance, and incidentals required for maintenance and repair of layered access and CCTV. The layered access work will consist of troubleshooting, repair, and installation of replacement parts to restore existing electromagnetic locking systems to good working order. The CCTV work will consist of the supply, installation, programming, and configurations of all necessary components of Internet Protocol video surveillance systems. Tomex is a women-owned business, and their HUD-approved Section 3 hiring plan, total estimated hours 200, and their projected hours are 50. And that's it. If any questions?
Chief, is this citywide?
It is citywide, sir. Yes.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Move on to item 2.
Excuse me. Good morning, board members. I'm Sergio Paneque, NYCHA's Chief Procurement Officer. On behalf of the Office of Supply Management and Procurement, I am presenting agenda item number 2 for your consideration. Item number 2 seeks ratification of a contract capacity increase of $2 million to the existing agreement with Visual Millwork and Fixture Manufacturing Incorporated. This contract capacity increase will fund the continued purchase and delivery of kitchen cabinets during the remainder of the one-year renewal option period, which commenced on November 1st of 2021 and continues through October 31st of 2022. If approved by the board, the new not-to-exceed amount will be $7,040,492. Given this proposed contract is for goods, a Section 3 plan is not required. Therefore, the Supply Management and Procurement Department respectfully recommends that the members approve the ratification of the contract capacity increase. Do we have any questions?
I just have one simple one. Are these cabinets all uniform? In other words, do they change at different developments, or everyone's getting the same cabinets at all the developments?
That's a good question, board member. We have Vice Chair. We have one standard specification that then is provided by a number of providers. This particular contract is one of those providers that we're asking for the contract capacity increase. But it is one standard specification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sergio. Item 3, Raj. Raj, before you present item 3, you will move into the record a report.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Krishnan. I'm the Director for the Lead Hazard Control Department. I'm here to represent Mr. Daniel Green, Senior Vice President of Healthy Homes. Before I present item 3 to the board this morning, I will call into the record the temporary suspension report on mold and ventilation-related contracts. If you have any questions, we have Elena, who's the Senior Director here to answer.
Okay, proceed to item 3.
I do just want to make
Sorry.
a comment that we do have all the fans installed.
Thank you.
So for those of you that have been here for the fan saga, we've blown right past that. So I just wanted to make note that that's quite an accomplishment again. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Authorization is requested to approve a contract capacity increase to this IDIQ contract awarded to AGD Contracting Corp., a women-owned business enterprise, for the lead abatement, paint abatement services. The scope of the work includes, but not limited to, removal of lead-based paint in authority buildings in accordance with all the applicable rules and regulations. Pursuant to award of this contract, which did not require the initial board authorization, the notice to proceed was issued for a 2-year term, which commenced on August 20, 2020, and is continuing through August 19, 2022. There has been one prior contract capacity increase for a total amount of $450,000. This contract capacity increase is required to increase the not-to-exceed amount in order to fund the continued abatement activities during the remainder of the initial 2-period term and 1-year renewal term. We are requesting an increase of $900,000 and a 1-year extension to this contract.
Any questions? Thank you, Raj.
Thank you.
Items 4 and 5, Cal?
Good morning. Cal Bruno, Vice President, Operational Analysis and Contract Management. I'll be presenting items 4 and 5 for your consideration. Item 4 is requesting authorization to increase an emergency IDIQ with interface cable assemblies and services in the amount of $1,456,809. This agreement provides for electrician services at various Manhattan developments. It is used to supplement our staff to complete work orders and for FOS preparation. This increase is needed in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 2-year term, which commenced on February 3rd, 2022, and is continuing through February 2nd, 2024.
No questions, proceed.
Item 5 is requesting authorization to increase an emergency IDIQ with Amazonas Painting in the amount of $3,335,000. This agreement provides for painting services at various Manhattan developments. It is used to supplement our staff to complete work orders. It's used at developments that do not have an active paint contract. It is also used to perform public space painting as needed and to support the mold painting initiative. This increase is needed in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the 2-year term and the 1-year renewal option, which commenced on January 21st, 2022, and is continuing through January 20th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. No questions. Thank you, Cal.
Thank you.
Items 6 through 8, Pete?
Good morning. If I may, Ms. Secretary, they're the same, it's 3 contracts with the same vendor. I'll read it one time, or would you prefer?
Yes, you may combine the presentation.
Thank you.
Make sure your mic is on. It's green, correct?
Green means go.
We demand that you read each separately.
Anything for you, sir. So, the items 6, 7, and 8 are a request to extend the requirements contract of New York Boiler, Inc. They're our boiler welding contractor. This requirement contract provides for boiler welding and repair services. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, furnishing all labor, supervision, materials, scaffolding, and equipment required to perform boiler repairs and hot water tank repairs. When defective weld seams or cracks in boiler wall repairs are required, the extent of the repair shall be determined by the contractor. By the authority and requested of the contractor. Item number 6 is requesting an increase of $2,257,857. Item number 7 is an increase of $2,198,095.10. Number 8 is $2,869,198.00. The contract term for item number 6 is extended from June 7th, an additional time for 12 months from June 7th, 2022 through June 6th, 2023. For item number 7, it's June 6th, 2022, continuing through June 5th, 2023. And item number 8 is June 7th, 2022 through June 6th, 2023.
So I did have one question.
Sure.
So when we call New York Boiler for repair during the heat season, they can come in and do all the setup? Everything gets covered? Where do we have to connect to them?
So essentially, our staff will come in, do an evaluation of the repairs required. Once we realize that it requires their very special expertise, then we'll determine that they need to be called in. We'll make that call, and their response time is typically within 12 to 24 hours.
Okay. And then they do all the setup to do the work?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, great. Thanks.
And in all cases, this is the one-year extension that we're funding.
Yes, ma'am. So we're asking for this additional extension because we are waiting on the U.S. Department of Labor to reconsider prevailing wage for boiler welding contracts, boiler welders.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, just one correction. It's only a matter of 10 cents, but the amount is $2,198,095 for item number 7. And just want to add, I don't believe you said it, each contract capacity increase will provide for one new hire.
Yes. I forgot, but thank you.
Thank you very much. We will, thank you, yes. We'll move on to items 9 and 10. John?
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, Chairman Russ and board members. Congratulations, Ms. Trimble. My name is John Neeson. I am the Assistant Director for Risk Management. I'll be presenting items number 9 and 10 today. Item 9 requests authorization to award the authority's general liability insurance program policies at an annual premium cost of $5,598,775. This program will have a one-year term commencing August 1st, 2022, continuing through July 31st, 2023. We note the renewal premium cost increase of 5% plus or minus is less than our initial estimate of a 10% increase. The program policies will be provided by 10 separate insurers in 7 separate layers, with each insurer providing successive levels of coverage to reach the program limits of $105 million per occurrence and in the aggregate for the policy term. These limits are inclusive of the authority's self-insured retention of $5 million per occurrence and quota share participation of $10 million or 50% of the first $20 million insured layer. This insurance program provides coverage for general liability and auto liability claims for bodily injury, personal injury, and property damage of third parties for which NYCHA is alleged to be liable. The policy also includes coverage for employee benefits liability and covers all such liabilities arising out of acts of terrorism. Therefore, it is recommended that the board approve the purchase of the general liability insurance program policies effective August 1st, 2022, for a one-year term and total premium of $5,598,775. Thank you.
Proceed.
I have one question.
Oh, sure.
We raised the level of the expiring amount, is that correct? From 5 million to 10 million?
There is no change in the basic coverage structure. So
Okay, there's no change.
just to, we have an $105 million per occurrence limit. NYCHA's self-insured retention is $5 million of that,
Okay.
same as last year. And then the quota share participation in the first $20 million insured layer is 50% or $10 million maximum.
There was no change.
No change in that
So we
structure.
did quite well, given the market, to get.
Relatively speaking, what's been a nightmarish liability insurance market seems to be getting a little better, but given the last 4 years, I don't want to overstate that fact at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Item number 10 requests authorization to award the authority's public officials and employment practices liability insurance program policies at an annual premium cost of $1,750,000 $719,526. The annual premium will also have a one-year term commencing August 1st, 2022, and continuing through July 31st, 2023. We note that the renewal premium cost increase of 22% is in line with our initial estimate of a 20% increase. The program policies will be provided by 7 separate insurers in 7 separate layers, with each insurer providing successive levels of coverage to reach the program limits of $20 million per claim and in the aggregate for the policy term for public officials liability, and $15 million per claim and in the aggregate for the policy term for employment practices liability. Public officials liability coverage provides insurance for acts, errors, and omissions, including civil rights violations, misstatements, neglect, or breach of duty allegedly committed by public officials. The insurance is geared to public entities and persons who act on their behalf and is intended to cover liability arising out of broadly defined wrongful acts of the public official or the authority. This insurance protects both employees and board members. The current program provides for $20 million in insurance coverage subject to a $5 million self-insured retention, except in cases where the policy defends an employee whom NYCHA is not legally required to indemnify, in which case the retention is $0 unless otherwise required by New York state law. Employment practices liability coverage protects the authority from liability arising from wrongful acts in our role as an employer, including wrongful termination, harassment and discrimination of all types, retaliation, failure to employ or promote, and related causes of action. This insurance also protects both employees and board members. The current program includes $15 million in insurance coverage subject to a $5 million self-insured retention. Therefore, it is recommended that the board approve the purchase of the public officials and employment practices liability insurance program policies effective August 1, 2022 for a one-year term and total premium of $1,719,526.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11, Anika.
Good morning. My name is Anika Lascott Martinez, and I am the EVP and Chief Financial Officer, and I will be presenting item number 11 today. Item 11 requests authorization for the approval of the investment transactions that were performed by the authority's Treasury Department for the 12 months ending December 31st, 2021. The authority's investment resolution report outlines the authority's cash and investment position and provides a brief overview of the changes in cash, changes in investment, and provides current and historical rates of return on the authority's investments as a measure of investment performance. As of December 31st, 2021, the investment portfolio balance totaled $1.3 billion. In addition, the authority held balances totaling $232 million, of which $138 million is in escrow for Hurricane Sandy recovery work, and $78 million is in escrow for construction costs related to energy performance contracts. These balances are not invested. In the 12 months of 2021, the portfolio earned $4.5 million in investment income, which represents an annualized rate of return of 0.36%, which exceeds a comparable benchmark 3-month Treasury bill rate of return and a 12-month Treasury bill rate of return. All of the earned investment income is reinvested in the public housing program as applicable. This is approved by the board in the budget and is found on the other income line in the adopted budget. All of our transactions were performed in accordance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Office of Public and Indian Housing, Notice PIH 2002-13. The investment strategy in 2021 was largely the same as in the past. We diversified among safe instruments, laddered our maturities, and diversified amongst financial institutions and governmental agency bond insurers. Our strategy follows HUD's investment guidelines, emphasizing safety, liquidity, yield, and maturity. We recommend that the members of the board approve the authority's 2021 investment transactions. Any questions? Please.
So this is, we're moving in money around to get the best rates, depending on what we're moving that money around for and what kind of terms it's reached. So That is what we're basically saying,
Correct.
yeah.
So we are bound by HUD rules in terms
Yeah.
of what we can invest in. So many of our instruments are pretty safe. They're
Right.
government-backed bonds and securities. And so we do sort of move money around to get the best results.
We watch that.
And we watch the
We
market
have
very closely.
expiring
Yes.
investments that need to be renewed, that kind of thing. So that's really what, okay.
Yes.
I hesitate to ask, but what's the benchmark for this year?
So that is a great question. And it's a tough one to answer, particularly today, given some of the Fed announcements. But I will say that every year, our goal is first and foremost to preserve capital. So that means simply don't lose any money. And then, because we are overachievers, we want to also exceed the Treasury benchmarks every time. So we sort of look at where Treasury is on a 3-month and 12-month. If we are hitting those and exceeding them, then we know we're doing the right thing.
It's tough this year,
Yes.
say it. Okay, so that's what we're watching, is the Treasury.
Yes, we are watching really closely. We pay attention to all of the Fed announcements, and we kind of, adjust our strategy as applicable based on those announcements.
Excellent, thank
So
you.
we are paying a lot of attention today.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anika. Jeffrey? Proceed.
Good morning, board members and Chief Operating Officer. My name is Jeffrey Lesnoy. I am Vice President and Controller of NYCHA, and I'm pleased to present Resolution Number 12. Authorization is requested to approve the issuance of the authority's fiscal year 2021 audited annual financial statements, presented in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the U.S. and is recommended by the authority's Audit and Finance Committee in compliance with the Audit and Finance Committee Charter, adopted pursuant to Board Resolution 21-4/28-2, and is subsequently amended by Board Resolution 22-1/26-15. The authority issues a complete set of audited annual financial statements comprised of basic financial statements and required supplementary information. The basic financial statements consist of statements of net position, related statements of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, and the statements of cash flows and related notes to the financial statements. The required supplementary information includes, but is not limited to, management's discussion and analysis, called MD&A, a narrative overview and analysis of the authority's financial activities to be read in conjunction with the basic financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements. An audit was performed by Deloitte & Touche, who provided their unmodified opinion that the authority's basic financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. I will now highlight some of the major drivers in the 2021 financial results. First, as a result of COVID-19, the authority committed to taking emergency protective measures to sanitize facilities, provide safety to its residents and employees. Related costs incurred were $85 million in 2021 and $88 million in 2020. The CARES Act provides for funding to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19, including maintenance of normal operations. The authority was awarded CARES Act grants of $187 million, recognizing revenues of $57 million in 2021 and $130 million in 2020. The authority also recognized $15 million of FEMA revenue in 2021 and $8 million in 2020 as related to COVID. COVID-19 had a direct impact on the local economy, impacting tenants' ability to make rent payments. Tenant revenue decreased by $91 million in 2020 compared to 2019, and decreased an additional $46 million in 2021. A corresponding allowance for doubtful accounts is reflected within the statement of net position, reducing the net value of tenant receivables. In attempts to recover lost rent, NYCHA initiated or supported 118 million rental assistance applications through the New York State Emergency Rental Assistance Program, called ERAP. However, due to state's low prioritization of public housing residents within the program, No recoveries are currently anticipated. Moving on to another highlight, during 2021, the authority closed 3 PAC transactions representing over 5,000 apartment units. These transactions were executed for the purpose of facilitating conversion from Section 9 public housing to Section 8 funding, and to allow developers to finance necessary building repairs and operational improvements while preserving long-term affordability. The authority received $33 million to be used to pay off underlying debt and respective developments, and such amounts will be recognized to revenue over a 40-year period. Secondly, the authority will receive $58 million of developer fees, mostly in or after 2025. Lastly, the authority received $217 million of purchase money notes, sometimes called seller's notes, to be paid from available developers' cash flow over 44 years. As there is significant uncertainty in collecting on these notes, a full allowance for doubtful accounts has been reflected, and no revenue will be recognized until after cash has been received. On to another major driver of our 2021 results. GASB Statement 49 requires that the expected cost of all future activities to remediate and abate lead be reflected within the financial statements. Effective December 1, 2021, New York City has a new 0.5 milligram standard under Local Law 66 for defining the presence of lead in paint, and this replaces the previous 1.0 milligram standard. Under the new standard, the authority will be required to retest all units at move-out and incur additional retesting costs. In addition, the authority has initiated a program to aggressively retest all children under 6 apartments by early 2023. Separately, 33,000 previously exempt apartments are now subject to testing and potential abatement under the new law, with expected cost increases. Combined incremental estimated cost of $649 million were reflected as a special item in the 2021 Statement of Revenues and Expenses, causing the pollution remediation obligation to increase to $3.1 billion at December 31st, 2021. Testing using the new 0.5 milligram standard is still at a very early stage, and results are insufficient to reliably estimate lead paint across the portfolio. As a result, estimates used in the 2021 financial statements incorporate costs based on the 1.0 milligram standard. The pollution remediation obligation will be reassessed annually and will be subject to adjustment for changes in test results, changes in applicable laws, and price changes. Moving on, the authority's subsidies and grant revenue in 2021 was $3,122 million, $139 million increase, a $399 million increase over 2020, $125 million which relates to public housing subsidy, $88 million which relates to Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, $101 million increase relating to City of New York subsidies, $91 million increase in federal capital funds used for operating purposes, and miscellaneous other increases were offset by a $73 million reduction in CARES Act funding. The authority's 2021 loss before special items and capital contributions was $240 million, as compared to a $505 million loss in 2020. The biggest single driver of this improvement was the increase in 2021 subsidies. Capital contributions during 2021 were $758 million, down from $950 million in prior year. In 2021, the largest sources of capital were $331 million from FEMA, $266 million from HUD's Capital Fund program, and $115 million from the City of New York. The decline from 2020 is largely a result of a $92 million decrease in the Capital Fund program and a $76 million decrease from FEMA. Net position at December 31st, 2021 is $1,622 million, which is a decrease of $131 million from prior year. Cash and investments in the aggregate was $1,638 million at December 31st, 2021, $109 million decrease from prior year, partially due to reduction in standing escrow funds as resiliency work has been completed, and due to shortfalls in rental collections versus billed amounts. With that, I have covered noteworthy topics and transactions affecting the financial results for year ending December 31st, 2021, and I have provided you with a full set of financial statements within the briefing memo. Authorization is now requested to approve the issuance of the authority's 2021 audited financial statements.
Are there any questions?
Any possibility of the state ERAP, or is that totally dead for us?
At the moment, it's dead. It could resurrect itself at a later point in time, but we're not very optimistic.
So there's nothing lingering right now. I think it's a great job on the audit, and I want to just compliment you again for a great audit review. And while the deficit was 131 million, I know what it took to get there. So I just want to compliment everyone to have really maximized our years as best we could. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Gavin.
Thank you, Jeff. Item 13, bladder.
Chair, Chief Operating Officer, thank you for that. I'm Vlada Knip. I'm the SVP for Sustainability in Asset and Capital Management Division. I am here today to present on item 13 that seeks authorization to enter into two IDIQ agreements with two firms and ratify the entering of the four IDIQ agreements for four firms for architectural and engineering and sustainability consulting services. To support the authority's energy and sustainability program and many of the goals set out in NYCHA's sustainability agenda released in 2021. These goals include reducing greenhouse gas emissions, cultivating health and resilient communities, resident empowerment through workforce development, efficient building operations, and leveraging new funds to finance decarbonization efforts. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, energy and water audits, feasibility studies for energy and sustainability practices, utility data analysis and utility rebate program coordination, architectural and engineering design services for energy retrofit projects, waste management and characterization studies, and program management support. The combined not-to-exceed cap for the IDIQ agreement is estimated at $30 million. Each IDIQ agreement will have a 3-year term. Cycle and Synergy Strategic commenced on June 3rd, 2022, and continuing through June 2nd of 2025. Facility Strategies and Stephen Winters commenced on July 5th of 2022 and will continue through July 4th of 2025. To the approval to enter the 4 agreements with Cycle, Synergy Strategic Facilities, Management, and Stephen Winters prior to board authorization was received from Chief Procurement Officer on May 12, 2022. The Section 3 hiring plan was submitted by the selected firms. Projected Section 3 hours range from 1470 to 2101. VNC requests on February 17, 2022 for Ventrup and February 18 of 2022 for AECOM are pending. There will be no award to the firms until the VNC is issued and vetted. So I am here to recommend that the board members approve such board resolution and permit the 6 IDIQ agreements to be executed in accordance with the authority's bylaws. Thank you.
Vlada, the range was really 0 to something with respect to the...
Stephen Winters Associates did not submit Section 3, correct?
I apologize, I should have asked this before, but is there one consultant or contractor who is overseeing the work of the others, or what is the structure?
No, there aren't. We will select the most qualified consultant for the kind of work that they need to perform, and it ranges, as you saw in the scope. Some are better at doing specifications, some are better at developing workforce plans. So we will select consultants based on what, their strengths are.
And you'll project manage each of them?
Yes.
Got it, thank you.
And it's in conformance with the great sustainability plan.
That is correct. Thank you, Paula.
I just have something. So, you have multiple vendors and multiple plans, correct? So obviously, they must have submitted some form of moving forward plan that has made you come to the decision as to how much money is going to be needed, as well as the scope of work that each individual group is going to do. You have that currently.
They submitted to the solicitation, they're all qualified. The estimate, the 30 million estimate is about $1 million each firm over 5 years. That's the estimate that we developed based on the amount of work that's coming out through the sustainability agenda and the work that we do in supporting other departments. We do support the heating department, we do support finance department, Anika and others in all kinds of applications to HUD, like rate reduction incentive. We do help develop solicitation support for heating departments, so that is the estimate based on those kinds of scopes of work.
And Vlada, we would task order basically into the various vendors for the list.
That is correct.
Stuff that you just indicated.
That is correct.
And picking people that we know, okay, they have good expertise on rates, or could help us calculate that as opposed to someone who's doing design on something.
That is correct, Chair.
Okay, Vlada, sorry, I have another question. You just stated that the renewals are included in the 30 million, so the contract period covered by the 30 million is 5 years and not 3, correct?
It's 3 years with a 2-year renewal option.
I understand that, but you just said it's $1 million per 6 times 5. So that means it's a 5-year period that should be on the reso and not 3. We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And 14 through 21? Oliver, before you proceed, you will move a CPD record. A CPD
Oh, yes.
report into the record. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Board members, Chief Operating Officer. Congratulations. I will be presenting items 14 through 21, and before I do so, I will call into record the quarterly update on capital projects department expenditure, temporary suspension report on elevator modernization, heating plant, and waste management contracts. Okay, item 14. Which seeks authorization to award this contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, ACS System Associates, Inc., for the Community Center addition at Wyckoff Gardens. The lowest and responsive and responsible bidder, ACS, has been in operation since 1998. ACS has been awarded 4 contracts at NYCHA as a prime contractor with a total value of $7,448,769.45, and has an overall satisfactory performance evaluation. ACS understands the scope of work and has the capacity needed to perform this work satisfactorily. Vendor name check dated January 11th, 2022 was vetted by the Procurement Ethics and Vendor Responsibility Department, which found no issue to preclude award. The Office of the Inspector General agreed via email dated June 9th, 2022 to extend the validity of the VNC through July 31st, 2022 in order to facilitate board approval. There's an 18.66% variance between ACS bid of $4,577,000 and the authority's cost estimate of $3,857,095.51. In the Capital Projects Division post-bid review, CPD determined that the authority's cost estimate did not reflect current market conditions, and the variance is attributed primarily to the high bid variance for the abatement of asbestos, pipe insulation, escalation, and unpredictability of material cost. And based on this analysis, CPD finds ACS bid to be acceptable. The project details. Wyckoff Gardens, located in Brooklyn, consists of 3 buildings with 529 apartments. And this contract, RFQ 311866,2,1, provides for the construction of a 1-story addition to the existing community center. The The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, adding 1,700 square feet to the existing community center, adding interior partitions and finishes, flooring, ceilings, kitchens, bathrooms, plumbing fixtures and accessories, fire alarms, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system units, and associated work. The contract term duration is for 1 year, 3 months, and 13 days. The projected total labor hours are 10,000, and of those are projected 2,500 Section 3 labor hours.
No questions. You may
Our
proceed.
first new construction in a while, so we're very excited.
Vice Chair.
I just have one quick, so basically you're adding you're fixing the current one and then adding on an extra floor to it?
No, this is not part of a renovation project. It's an addition, actually, at the ground level, adjacent to the existing community.
Jason, not
Yeah.
up top,
So
okay.
we're not adding on top. It's a new building that will be attached to the existing community center.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Okay. Item 15 seeks authorization to award a contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Vcrunt Contracting and Builders, for roofing replacement and rooftop structure renovation at Low Houses. Vcrunt has been in operation since 2004. Vcrunt has been awarded 4 contracts at NYCHA as a prime contractor with a total value of $81,224,751.32, and has an overall good, very good performance evaluation. Vcrunt understands the scope of work and has the capacity needed to perform this work satisfactorily. Vcrunt understands, the vendor name check dated October 21, 2021 was vetted by the Procurement Ethics and Vendor Responsibility Department, which found no issue to preclude award. The Office of the Inspector General agreed via email dated June 1st, 2022 to extend the validity of the VNC through July 30th, 2022 in order to facilitate board approval. Details. As part of the New York City Mayor's roofing initiative, this contract provides for roofing replacement and rooftop structure renovation for all buildings at Low Houses located in Brooklyn. Low Houses consists of 4 buildings with 536 apartments. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, removal and replacement of the existing roofing system and related work, including asbestos and lead abatement. The contract term duration is 1 year, 5 months, and 22 days. And in keeping with the authority's sustainability agenda, this contract provides for a liquid applied waterproofing system, which is highly reflective and keeps the building cooler, reducing energy consumption during the summers. The new material has a 30-year warranty. The total projected labor hours are 50,900, and the projected Section 3 labor hours are 12,725. Questions? I'll move on to item 16, which seeks authorization to approve a contract capacity increase to this requirements contract with site lighting upgrades at various city-wide developments for an amount not to exceed $5,546,724.70. This contract capacity increase is being presented to the board because the value exceeds 10% of the original contract value. Background. Pursuant to Board Resolution 20-2/26-2, the authority entered into a requirement contract with Gilson Electric Contracting for site lighting upgrades on an as-needed basis in the amount of $4,675,290.42 at various citywide developments. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, installation of LED fixtures and associated electrical components, removal and replacement of asphalt pavements for electrical installations, provision of soil and seeding for site restoration and tree planting. And the letter of award was issued for a 3-year term, which commenced in March 1st, 2020, and is continuing through March 30th, 2023. There have been no prior contract capacity increases or change orders. Increase number 1. This contract capacity increase is required to increase the not-to-exceed amount in order to fund the additional work, which consists of installing approximately 420 new LED light fixtures, 10 new site lighting panel systems, New conduits to accommodate 233 pole-mounted lights, 233 pole-mounted lights, 184 new wall and canopy-mounted lights, and 3 in-ground lighting. Therefore, CPD is requesting authorization to approve the contract capacity increases to cover the cost of the additional signed work. This contract capacity increase will be funded by capital and city funds. Because this is a contract capacity increase, a vendor name check is not required. A revised Section 3 hire plan was submitted by Gilson as outlined here. They are projecting 2 new Section 3 hires.
So the new lighting requirements, which sounds great, how did that come about? What drove that decision to add, which sounds like it's the right thing to do? I'm just curious as to the process.
So these are typically funded by elected officials, these site lighting projects. They are typically not part of our capital plan. So we receive funds for specific developments, and we will design lighting upgrades that match the budget.
And roughly how many developments will this impact? Do you have a sense? It's a lot of lights, so.
That is a lot of
that's
lights.
good. But I'm just wondering what the number of sites impacted at some point.
I'm going to have to get back to you on the actual number of developments.
And we're citywide with this?
This is citywide, correct.
Great.
So it'll cover all
And
boroughs.
this would also, this is elected council members, assembly, state,
It's city.
it's city, okay, it's typically city, all right.
Yep. All right. I'll move on to item number 17, which seeks authorization to ratify an amendment to Board Resolution 22-2/23-5, which authorized the entering into an award with P&K Contracting for roofing replacement and rooftop structure renovation at Woodside Houses in the amount of $21,450,000. Woodside Houses consists of 20 buildings with 1,357 apartments. And as part of the New York City Mayor's Roofing Initiative, this contract provides for roofing replacements and rooftop structure renovation in 9 of the 20 buildings. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, removal and replacement of the existing roofing system and related work, including bulkhead repairs, sidewalk sheds, and asbestos and lead abatement. The contract term duration is 510 days. And in keeping with the authority's sustainability agenda, the contract provides for a liquid applied waterproofing roofing system, which is highly reflective and keeps the building cooler, reducing energy consumption. The new material has a 30-year warranty. Pursuant to Board Resolution 21-7/28-12, the board authorized the award of contract number 21-10533 to Gem Quality Corporation in the amount of $18,992,556.68 for the Woodside work. And subsequent to the board authorization, Gem declined to hold its bid variance past the 120 days from the bid opening date, which delay was due to the length of time required to approve Gem's vendor name check and the delay in completion of the net liquidity assets test. Since the authority's bid documents require bidders to hold their bids for a period of 120 days from the bid opening date, and the 120-day period had elapsed, the Supply Management and Procurement Department consented to release Gem from this bid. Board Resolution 22-2, 23-5 authorized the rescission of Board Resolution 21-7/28-12 and awarded the contract to the Woodside work, and the contract for the Woodside work and award the contract for the Woodside work to P&K. The projected labor hours are 45,180, and the projected Section 3 labor hours are 11,295. The amendment. Subsequent to the board resolution, it was learned that Board Resolution 22-2/23/5 contained 2 typographical errors. The contract number and the contract type were incorrectly reported on Board Resolution 22-2/23-5 as 21-10-533 and lump sum, respectively. The correct contract number is 22-0 00785. The correct contract type is unit price. In order to ensure this contract was timely registered with the New York City Office of Management and Budget, the Chief Procurement Officer, in consultation with the authority's Executive Vice President for Legal Affairs and General Counsel, approved the amendment prior to board approval, which approval allowed the authority to timely register this contract for the New York City 21-22 fiscal year, which ended on June 30th, 2022, and in order to leverage FY22 city funds for this contract. Failure to register this contract by the end of June 2022 deadline would have resulted in the authority's loss of those capital funds, and the roofing replacement and rooftop structural renovation would have been delayed indefinitely. Capital Projects Division is requesting approval of the ratification to the amendment to Board Resolution 22-2/23-5 to reflect the aforementioned changes to the contract number and the contract type.
Question, what about the other 11 buildings? Have they been done already, or they're two?
So these are being done in phases.
So this is phase one?
This is phase 3.
Okay, so the
others have been done. I actually have an accounting. So buildings, so the first phase was done, and the warranty is up in 2029. And the second phase was done with their warranties ending in 2032. So they're done in the past.
Super, thank you.
So just for my own clarity, the GEM versus P&K was actually part of the resolved previous to this, and we're simply making technical corrections.
That's correct.
Okay. And it's P&K that'll be doing the work. GEM couldn't come up with meet the requirements tests that we have.
That is correct.
So that's all.
That's,
yeah, okay, good.
Mr. Chair, there was a resolution, this resolution actually rescinded the contract with GEM and awarded it to P&K.
Okay.
No other questions. I'll move on to item 18, which seeks authorization to reject all bids for a contract for roof water tank replacement at Gompers Houses. Gompers Houses is located in Manhattan and consists of 4 buildings with 474 apartments. This contract, RFQ number 253844, provided for roof water tank replacement at building number 2. The scope of work included, but was not limited to, the replacement of existing roof water tank and related work and asbestos abatement. 4 bid proposals were received for this contract. The first lowest bidder, Fidelis Contracting, was deemed non-responsive for failure to submit the required contractor experience form as outlined in the authority's bid documents. The lowest responsive bidder, Landmark Group, submitted a bid in the amount of $3,942,000, which is 216% above the authority's cost estimate, which Capital Projects Division deemed excessive for the value of the work being performed. So the 4 bids received for this contract far exceed the budget for this project. So therefore, CPD is requesting authorization to reject all bids. It's unknown at this time if this contract will be rebid. CPD intends to perform the work under an existing IDIQ contract.
Proceed.
So, I'm sorry. So we reject these,
Correct.
and we shift to a different form of procurement.
Correct.
So my question is, what does that do to the schedule when we can actually get the tank replaced? How much have we lost by going through this process? And if we're doing this other contract, do we have a price from them that is, helps support the decision to reject these bids?
The costs, so we have to confirm the proposals, but this is, our plan is to use an IDIQ.
Okay.
With a construction catalog.
Okay.
The fact that we're going to an IDIQ contract means we're only soliciting a proposal and then awarding based on the price proposal. We don't have to go through a board approval process. So it'll cut out a significant amount of time of re-procuring.
And we would know if we have a viable vendor how long from today? I'm trying to think about when can we tell Gompers that they're getting a new water tank?
I mean, I don't have the schedule in my head right now.
Right.
But I would think as soon as we have the price proposal, we could probably proceed pretty quickly.
Okay.
A couple of weeks, a month.
And at some point, I just want to be sure that we do have a date where this work will get done and we don't spin too many.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We do reproject the schedules based on
All
when we
right.
switch gears on.
Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing that once you guys get it all settled.
For sure.
Thanks.
Is there a reason why we went through the process to begin with and are now changing up how we're doing the procurement?
So, we switched technology on our roof tanks. We were looking into glass reinforced stainless steel tanks, which promise to have a lower maintenance and greater durability. What we're finding in general, and I'm going to ask for another rejection in the next item, we're finding that the cost proposals are just coming in way too high, and they're not what we're expecting. So to cover that gap, we're actually reverting to the use of wooden tanks, which we've been using traditionally.
Interesting, got it.
Yeah.
And they're coming in too high because of changes, like with
I think
supply
our
chain and-
expectations and our estimates were just not aligned with the industry. You know?
Got it, thank you.
Chair, I'm sorry, was your question, when will the work be performed under the IDIQ?
Yeah, I'd like to, because when we have to reject bids, we've lost a lot of time.
Correct.
So I want to make sure if we're going to have Plan B, then that route gets us to a date, and we can all be comfortable with that date,
Right.
including letting the site and residents know when that work is going to be done, so.
Okay, great, thanks. Proceed?
I'll proceed with item number 19, which seeks authorization to reject all bids for a contract for trash hoist. Trash hoist replacement at vertical reciprocating conveyors at Coney Island Houses. Coney Island Houses, located in Brooklyn, consists of 5 residential buildings with 534 apartments. This contract, RFQ number 288849, provided for trash hoist replacement with VRCs. The scope of work included, but was not limited to, the removal of 5 decommissioned trash hoists in all 5 buildings and replacement of each with code-compliant VRCs. 4 bid proposals were received for this contract. The first lowest bidder, MGR Restoration, was deemed non-responsive for failure to list its electrical subcontractors in sealed lists of contractors as outlined in the authority's bid documents. The second lowest bidder, Aujla Electric, submitted an initial bid of $870,999. However, on January 19, 2022, Aujla contacted the Supply Management and Procurement Department and requested that its original bid of $870,999 be increased by 40% to $1,219,398, which is 41% above the authority's cost estimate. The authority then contacted the third lowest bidder, Ziar Bujan DBA Dynamic Construction Company, whose original bid was $1,230,600. Dynamic submitted a new bid of $1,353,660, which is 56.63% above the authority's cost estimate. Due to the fact that the second and third lowest bidders failed to hold their original bids and their new bids were deemed excessive for the value of the work being performed, all 3 responsive bids received for this contract far exceed the budget for this project. Therefore, CPD is requesting authorization to reject all bids. This contract will not be rebid. The contract work will be performed under an existing job order contract.
So, when will we know what it costs under the job order contract?
I will get you that information as
Yeah.
well, and the revised project schedule.
Okay, and just two things to be mindful of, and this is not, yes, because number 20 is the same.
Yes.
This is one of the single biggest issues at the property, is moving trash. It demands the most labor. It has the most opportunity for accidents, for workers getting injured in some way. And I just want to encourage us to think about these kinds of things save time because we're typically moving them out of a compactor room, and we have anywhere from 30 to 40 vertical feet of run to cover, because we're always in the basement, obviously. So I'm looking for a solution that we can then get in the groove and just do these, whether it's hoists or conveyors or motorized equipment of some kind that would fit into the compactor room. Because if you go and watch, and I encourage you to do this, go and watch the removal of the trash bags from the compactor room. And it is incredibly difficult because it's all manual and there's very little. So I'd be interested in knowing for 19, and I know 20 is the same, once we get your jock numbers, how fast can we get installation, what our schedule would be.
Absolutely. Sure. Get you that. That brings me to the next item, number 20, which is a similar item, which seeks authorization to reject all bids for a contract to trash waste.
Oliver, can I interrupt you and have you speak?
Oh.
Because I'm not sure everyone's hearing you.
Sure. Is this better?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this item seeks authorization to reject all bids for a contract for trash waste replacement with vertical reciprocating conveyors, VRCs, at Marlboro Houses. Marlboro Houses, located in Brooklyn, consists of 28 residential buildings with 1,765 apartments. This contract, RFQ 287846,1, provided for trash waste replacement with VRCs. The site work was divided into two contracts, electrical and architectural structural VRC. In accordance with the New York State General Municipality Law 101, also known as Wick's Law, which requires independent prime contractors to be used for electrical wiring and illuminating fixture work for construction contracts exceeding $500,000. Board Resolution 21-7/28-18 authorized the rejection of all bids for a contract for trash waste replacement with VRCs, architectural, structural, and VRC portion, which was RFQ number 7845,1. The scope of work included, but was not limited to, the removal of 17 decommissioned trash wastes in 17 of the 28 buildings, and replacement of each with code-compliant VRCs. This contract will not be rebid, as the contract work will be performed under an existing job order contract. For RFQ number 287846,1, the scope of work included, but was not limited to, demolition of existing electrical components, the existing hoist installation, of circuit breakers, panel boards, disconnect switches, light fixtures, and seal, and fire stops, relocation of existing conduits, and repowering of existing exterior light fixtures in the affected buildings. And the recommendation to reject is based on the fact that, in compliance with Wick's Law, the electrical portion of the work cannot commence without the ASV portion work, which is the mechanical work. Capital Projects Division concluded that since all bids for the ASV portion were rejected, it is in the best interest of the authority to reject all bids for the electrical portion of the work as well. Therefore, CPD is requesting to reject all bids. The contract will not be rebid, and this contract work will be performed under an existing JOC in conjunction with the ASV portion. And I will get you
Sure.
on the schedule for that as
So
well.
in a broader sense, what have we learned from this exercise? I'm interested in, I mean, I don't have a problem doing the right thing for bidding, of course. That's on the record, Ralph. But I want to be sure that if we're going to go down these pathways and I guess what, these numbers are so high in some cases, where we caught sort of between planning and the price increasing? I mean, what did you take away from this whole thing in order to think about this work, once you had a chance to go through all this? What did we learn?
So one of the items to remember is these are custom-built to NYCHA requirements. So this had to be really designed from scratch with a completely new specification. And I think there has to be more vendor outreach to make sure that what we're specifying is something that's the market can deliver, A, and B, that we have our numbers right.
So let me ask the question differently. So that's useful to know. So is it fair to say that we had specifications for a non-standard hoist? Or we had requirements that, and the second part of that question is, if that's the case, when we do the jocks, can we put something, since we're replacing the obsolete ones anyway, can we put a different kind of hoist in there that is more like the kind that the industry's using? Those would be my questions.
Certainly something we need to look at, but the existing hoists were pretty much jerry-rigged, homemade apparatuses that were devised and used.
Like we built them ourselves?
That's my suspicion, yes. These were not licensed by DOB.
Okay.
And so we're now switching over to devices that are licensed by DOB.
Can we do, so if we go to Marlboro or Coney Island, and part of the vendor outreach is you go and you look at the actual location where this, did they do this when they submitted the bids at all, or would this be, like, here's a vendor day for trash hoists, and come visit, see what it looks like, and tell us what kind of hoist you would put in there that is sort of more off the shelf. Can we do that?
Well, the question is maybe going design build, is that your question?
No, my question is, like, how to understand what the market can provide before we go through the process of, you know, it's okay to talk to folks if you're doing kind of like, hey, I'm trying to find out what kind of hoists are typical. It's not okay to say, you know, do that during some kind of bid process, obviously. But what I'm trying to get to is, if we wanted to replace at every building we own that has a trash hoist system, not the ones where we're doing pneumatic, not the ones where we're doing other trash handling, these entryways are, you know, is there something that we could reliably spec and think about the whole portfolio in some kind of series of specifications? And what would be a standard, like if typically you go down the ramp, you got your lower level, the door opens, the compactor rooms or the trash rooms are down the hall, you wheel it out, and then something can sit right on top of that and lift it up. But what is that something? And I'd be interested in having the vendors tell us generally what they see as, you know, here's a common hoist that we could put in, you know, or whatever. I mean, if we're going the jock route, I'd like to understand what's out there in the market first, and then understand what it is we're pulling off the jocks contract. And that to me seems to be like, let's look at the site and understand the piece of equipment that we actually have to put there. It's fine to replace these old things, but I just don't want to go through this prolonged period where we come back with, maybe we find out it's too unique. I don't know, but it just seems like there's got to be, and the reason I'm so interested in this, frankly, is because what is consuming the time of the caretakers? And, you know, the shorter time to move and pull trash, the more time they have to do other stuff. So if we can mechanize this in any way, I think it's like a little shot in the arm to some of the institutional changes we're making with the caretaker schedules and all the rest of that. So as you get into this a little bit, I'm going to ask that something come back to look at about what we've concluded about, for at least these two sites? And could we think about what this might look like as we advance into the rest of the portfolio? I'm not a big fan of the way we do trash anyway, but we're stuck with the infrastructure we have. We have the pneumatic stuff coming at Polo Grounds that might change how we think about trash hoists, obviously. But I'm interested in finding out, what would you put over there now that would lift that trash up and save us some time? And when you get to that point and you have what those elements are, I'd like to know what they are.
Certainly share that.
Sure, thanks.
Can I also just add to that, and it's literally an addition, and this is very helpful. I agree with everything that you're saying, Greg, that whatever reforms you recommend for the process so that you don't have to go through this again when you're talking about doing the pre-vendor outreach and whatever is legally possible, that I'd be interested to hear what the recommendation is for a standardized check and balance every time you're submitting, you're putting out the RFP or whatever it is. There's some form that you have to check the box and say, we did rigorous pre-outreach, whatever, again, is legally possible, so that that reform is built into the system and you don't have to afterwards say, oh, you know, we didn't, we realize in hindsight we didn't understand the market enough. If that makes sense.
Understood.
Sure. The other thing I would ask is that when we do this research, figure out who from ops is going to join us so that they can see it too, so that we've got capital eyes on it and operation eyes on it.
Understood.
And the other overlay on this is the HUD agreement with waste and pests.
Yeah, of course. That's part of the reason that there's about, if I think about a resident who comes out of their apartment door with a trash bag, that trash bag has a life. And that life goes 5 different ways depending on the site and what the resident does. And the pest and waste management is in part connected with inserting ourselves in that pathway in the best possible way to make sure that it doesn't wind up in a corner at the bottom of a handicap ramp, for example. So, so when you get together on what we think we're going to do, make sure we tap somebody's shoulder in operations so they're seeing it too. And if necessary, have the vendors come to a couple of these sites to just look at it as part of our selection outreach.
Thanks. I'll move to item 21.
Please.
Which seeks authorization to approve a contract capacity increase for an IDIQ job order contract for general construction. The contract capacity increase is being presented to the board because the value exceeds 10% of the original contract value. Background, pursuant to Board Resolution 20-2/30-11, the authority entered into one IDIQ JOC with WDF, the IDIQ JOC number GR 1925097, in the amount of $15 million. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, general construction work on an as-needed basis. And the duration of this IDIQ JOC is 2 years with 2 one-year renewal options to be exercised at the authority's sole discretion. The letter of award was issued for a 2-year term, which commenced on November 10th, 2020, and is continuing through November 9th, 2022. There's been one prior contract capacity increase for this JOC, and that resolution is 21-12/19-10. So for this contract capacity increase, this is due to the current market conditions and budget limitations for interior compactor work. The Capital Projects Division determined that the unit prices in this IDIQ JOC construction task catalog were more cost efficient and should be used to perform the work at various citywide developments. And CDD identified this JOC, which the work could be performed under. It's GR 1925097, and estimated an additional $12.5 million would be required for this JOC to address the additional assigned work. The additional interior compactor work under this IDIQ JOC will be performed at 13 developments with a total of 157 compactor rooms. CPD is requesting authorization to approve the contract capacity increase to cover the costs of the additional interior compactors assigned work. The contract capacity increase will be funded by federal, state, and city funds. The funding type is capital. Because it is a contract capacity increase, a vendor name check is not required. And also a revised Section 3 hiring plan was submitted as outlined below. The projected Section 3 hires are 18.
Okay, so this is for the interior compactors.
Correct.
So I'm following my bag of trash. And now it's in the compactor room, and I got a new compactor room, but I don't have a hoist. So I would encourage us to think about, if we're going to do 157 compactor rooms, first of all, are we able to do all the rooms at one site, or are they divided up in some way?
These are, so we have a list of
Really, are these the bad ones all over?
These are based on assessment and the state that they're.
Okay, so it could be 2 over here, 2 here.
It could very well be.
Okay. So the other thing then, if we're going to do the compactor rooms, now, this means, just want to confirm, that if I go to one of these new compactor rooms, it has all the epoxy floor stuff, it's got the power wash, it's got the new machines, it's got the fire suppression system, it's got the latest controls, it even has a little thing on it that eventually it can tell us if the compactor's working or not, like the heating sensors and stuff. That's what we're designing here.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Then we have to figure out how to get the hoist. So when you come out of that nice compactor room, we can just hoist it right up and cut those labor hours down a lot.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, it is a trash. See, that, you gotta think, we have a ton of money on the city side for waste and stuff. And it all fits together from the time I put it in the bag in the apartment to the time it's in the bulk crusher, where the heck we send it. So I just want to nudge us to think about, if we're doing 157 compactors, are any of them at Marlboro houses and any of them at Coney Island? And could we put in the hoists to complement that, so we have like a new path? Thank you.
Sure, I'm looking at the list, and Marlboro, neither Marlboro nor Coney Island is on the list of developments.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But we can talk about this as we go down, because let's have a conversation, because I'd like to see it kind of laid out, especially after you've had a chance to look at what we can do in the various areas. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. Items 22 and 23, Joy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joyce Cinderbrand, Senior Vice President for Capital Programs. Can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you. We're seeking board authorization to ratify a contract capacity increase to Cordoon Construction Corporation. This is for the installation and maintenance of natural gas boilers at various developments in Brooklyn in the not-to-exceed amount of $1,663,322. This contract capacity increase is required in order to fund the continuation of the lease of all temporary natural gas boilers during the extended 9-month and 15-day term at the following Hurricane Sandy affected sites: Surfside Gardens, Cary Gardens, Coney Island 1 Site 8, Coney Island, O'Dwyer Gardens, and Gravesend. The term at each site will vary depending on the length of construction. This is also relocating an existing gas line in conflict with new electrical room being built as part of the Recovery and Resilience Project at Cary Gardens. And performs gas leak repairs that were found during the annual required New York City Department of Buildings inspection for all gas trains at Coney Island 1 Site 8. This additional work was completed in order to provide undisrupted heat and hot water service while the ongoing capital boiler replacement projects were completed. This work will be funded by FEMA, HUD, CDBG-DR, or insurance, and because this is a contract capacity increase, a vendor name check is not required. Any questions? The next one is very similar. We're seeking authorization to ratify a contract capacity increase to Cordon Construction for natural gas boilers at Red Hook East and Red Hook West in the not-to-exceed amount of $1,305,410. This contract capacity increase will fund the disconnecting of panels and associated conduits at Red Hook East and West to allow for the installation of the new structural reinforcement for the boiler room in order to provide for undisrupted heat and hot water service during the ongoing capital boiler replacement. Recovery and Resilience directed Cordon to perform the additional assigned work prior to board authorization during the remainder of the extended term. This contract capacity increase will be funded by FEMA, CDBG-DR, or insurance. And because this is a contract capacity increase, a vendor name check was not required. Are there any questions for this one? Thank you.
Thank you.
And item 24, Barbara.
Hi, good morning. My name is Barbara Brancaccio, and I am the Chief Communications Officer for NYCHA, and today I'm here to request authorization to rename the Marlborough Houses Skate Park to the Sarah Lee McWhite Park. Marlborough Houses, built in 1958 in the Gravesend area of Brooklyn, has 28 buildings, 7 and 16 stories tall, a community center, and many active playgrounds. The 34.86-acre Brooklyn development is home to over 4,000 residents living in 1,765 apartments. Assembly members Steve Simbrowitz and Bill Colton, with partnership from the New York State Dormitory Authority, gave a $2 million grant to revitalize the area locally known as the skate park at the corner of West 11th Street and Avenue X, with new benches, trees, fencing, pavement, and barbecue pits. The area has not been used as a skate park for many years, but remains an important asset for the development's residents to use for recreation and family days. Residents were very pleased with the improvements and asked their assembly members to assist them with renaming the park in honor of Sarah Lee McWhite, a longtime Marlborough Houses resident, Tenant Association president, and NYCHA employee. The area would be called the Sarah Lee McWhite Park. The renaming initiative is strongly supported by Mrs. McWhite's family, including her 2 sons who grew up at Marlborough Houses, and elected officials, including Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, City Councilperson R.A. Kagan, State Assembly Member Steve Simbrowitz and William Colton, State Senator Diane Savino, and Congressperson Nicole Malliotakis. The current Tenant Association President Amaryllis Herrera is the main sponsor of the renaming. The Tenant Association held a meeting on June 14, 2022, with 35 residents in attendance. The vote to rename the park after Sarah Lee McWhite was unanimous. NTA President Herrera stated she spoke to residents throughout the development and was met with overwhelming support for the name change. Sarah Lee McWhite lived in Marlborough Houses from 1984 to her death in 2008 and worked at NYCHA as a community coordinator for nearly 24 years, from February 1985 to her death in October 2008, with a focus on programs that help younger substance abusers, teen pregnancy, and programs that encourage kids to stay in school. In 1988, Ms. McWhite founded Marlborough Prep, the first ever high school diploma and general equivalency program in a public housing development, with 36 students in the first year, all between the ages of 17 and 21, and approximately 25 students each year for approximately a decade. Mrs. McWhite helped organize the first Marlborough Houses Family Days, countless block parties, partnering with the Guardian Angels, NYPD, and KISS FM Radio, set up a summer camp for kids in the neighborhood, set up the first Marlborough Houses Roving Patrol, which is the Community Watch, and served as director, and gave out free turkeys on Thanksgiving and toys on Christmas. Mrs. McWhite was politically active and fought against redistricting that would split Marlborough Houses in 2, served as the chair of Education and Library Committee for Community Board 13, ran for the school board, and often testified at government-sponsored hearings in favor of issues that benefited Marlborough Houses and her neighbors. In 1988, she was given the first Neighborhood Martin Luther King Peace Award for her work promoting peace and interracial harmony in the Marlborough Houses Bensonhurst community. Please let me know your questions.
Thank
That sounds great.
I'm sending her off to the Catholic Church.
Stay good. That's fabulous.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Terrific, thank you. Terrific.
Madam Secretary, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do have another question on trash and waste. And this is my question. And we have a site plan that shows all the stuff we're going to do at each property for trash and waste. So what I'm interested in seeing is the compactor replacements, the different things that we are having to, how, if we have it's a one-page map for each property, sometimes bigger, but how is what we're doing in the queue fitting into that? Which is, in other words, how, if you said, well, this is a plan for the whole portfolio for the next 5 or 7 years, then we just had 3 different activities that are connected to that somehow. And I'm interested in understanding, for example, for the 157 compactors. So how do they connect to that plan? In other words, and how are we measuring ourselves against using those plans to complete the work that we have to do? Because I don't mind one-offs at a site when we have a really crappy piece of equipment, we have to deal with it. But what's our arc? So as you get into this a little bit, that'll be part of the discussion. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you, Chair. Before we end the meeting, let the record reflect that the following reports are incorporated into and made a part of the record. 1, the quarterly temporary suspension report on mold and ventilation-related contracts, and 2, CPD's quarterly temporary suspension report on elevator modernization, heating plant, and waste management contracts, and the CPD's spend rate update. Chair, 24 items were presented for board approval. May I have a motion to approve the 24 items?
So moved, Gavin.
Thank you. Seconded by?
Second.
Thank you, Vice Chair. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. Chair, being that all matters before the board have now been addressed, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I had
Vice Chair,
one,
seconded by?
I'll second, but then I have one thing I'd like to say.
Okay, all in favor? 1 second.
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Yes, Paula?
It sort of harkens back to the vice chair's comments at the beginning about the board. I think as we start to schedule the town halls on the trust, I think we should be including the board and letting them know about those so we could attend where our schedule permitted. It's a great way for us to be a part of the current issues that residents will be facing, but to visit the development. So I just wanted to make that as a formal request. And I think that planning for the town halls is underway, so I just want to make sure we get invited.
Okay, Paula, taking under
Is that
advisement.
Okay, sure. And actually, in September, we're going to do an update in session to the board on the activity for the trust. So we'll let you know where we are with all that work.
So those 25,000 units haven't moved?
No, not yet. We have to, if we build it, they will come, so.
Okay, thank you, everyone. The next NYCHA board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, September 28th at 10 a.m. in person. This will be a joint voting and non-voting meeting. See you then. Continue to stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Although the next board meeting is September, which seems a long way from now, kindly submitters, please feel free to submit items early so that we can get items finalized well in advance of the board meeting. The recorded end time is 11:43. Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have the annual meeting coming up.
That's it.
Oh, okay.